Can you clap for me? Oh God. Is that good enough? Sweet. Paws and Affection is a service dog organization. We train and place service dogs for children with disabilities in the greater Philadelphia area who are between the ages of 9 and 20.
Our original goal was to train service dogs for kids with physical disabilities, but we have since broadened and we're now doing some diabetic alert training, as well as some psychiatric support, and a bigger variety of things.
There's organizations that help veterans and autism and the blind and all of those kinds of things, and it just sort of felt right to help children. And then as we did more research on the aspect of children with disabilities, the government doesn't really start helping a person with a disability until after they turn 18 or even 21. And prior to that, the parents are responsible for all things related to the child, which is fine, but it's hard and there's a lot to do. And so we felt like if we could give dogs to those children, it would kind of be a helpmate to a child during a really important time in your life when there's a lot of development going on. A lot of people with disabilities would like to do it on their own, and having a dog with them is sort of doing it on their own. They don't have to depend on another human to help them. It provides independence. But you can lean on a dog to get onto the toilet. You can lean on a dog to stand up and then wash your hands. So it can feel much more independent. But that's only like a tiny piece of it. The emotional connection that the dog and the child have, that connection with another living thing that's just for that child, means a ton.
The bond between the person and the dog is everything. You know, the training is a big part of it, but it's a lot about just having them spend time together. That ends up being critical to the whole the success of the team, is really making sure that you see that kind of spark there. Traditional training, you know, back in the day, the focus was always on the dog shouldn't do that, and you know, you roll up the newspaper or whatever and smack the dog if they pee in the house or whatever. Our focus now, and the trend in dog training now, is towards rewards-based methods. So we're looking at, okay, in any situation where the dog is doing something that you want to change, or you want to teach them something new, we're looking at, okay, what would I like the dog to do instead? Just sort of started doing exercises that I would have done with any pet dog that I wanted the same thing out of. So lots of impulse control work, lots of settle work, and then as they got a little bit older and through their adolescent period, starting to throw in some task training, so the fun like tricks stuff. And then in terms of creating the training program for our recipients, it was really how to teach someone who's potentially never handled a dog before, you know, what is a dog, like what is dog behavior? How do you even know what they're thinking and feeling, and how do you communicate with them effectively? Those dogs are working all the time, especially. And I think this is probably the hardest thing for people to understand, especially when they don't look like they're working. They're still expected to be on and ready to jump to attention if they need to. And every time someone interrupts that focus, then they have to get refocused again. And if at that moment that you're petting the dog and the dog's like, hey, and enjoying it, if their person starts to have trouble and needs them, you've ruined that connection. That's a harsh way to say it, but you've broken that connection.
You become something that people are excited about or attracted to or want to talk to you, which probably didn't happen before. One of the reasons there is no governing body over this is because the government wants to protect the people with disabilities first. And so there needs to be the ability for anyone with a disability to train their dog to be a service dog.
I have a couple of heart conditions. POTS is one of them, neurocardiogenic syncope is the other one. So one of them causes my heart rate to go up and my blood pressure to go down, and the other causes my heart rate and blood pressure to drop. And I was dealing with that for about 4 years, just passing out. It was about a year before I got some diagnoses. I'm on a couple of medications that raise my blood pressure overall, but it still drops too low, so I still was passing out. So there's no other treatment for it, so I was just gonna have to deal with it. There's only a couple of organizations that do cardiac alert dogs, and I got her in from Canine Partners for Life in Pennsylvania. It's a long process. You have to be patient. I applied. I didn't hear anything back for 6 months to a year, and then they selected me. I waited 6 months after that to go train with her, and then I did a 3-week training where I was in Pennsylvania. It was a lot of work because they're used to having the same people train them and work with them. Especially with her, she's very stubborn. So getting her to trust me and do what I want instead of other people, it was a lot of work. We met for about 6 to 8 hours every day. She does a lot of stuff not even related to the cardiac. She helps me walk and balance. She grabs stuff off the floor for me so I don't have to bend over because that can cause me to pass out. And then when I'm having a cardiac episode, whether it's high or low, she does a couple things to alert. She'll either stand up and walk to the end of the leash or just stare me down wherever she is. When I realize she's alerting, I get on the floor. If my heart rate is high, she'll lay between my legs, and if it's low, she gets all the way on top of my chest until she feels like it's safe for me to get up. I spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with her, and I love her. She's just got a lot of attitude, and so do I. So we end up clashing sometimes. I'll ask her to do something, and she'll just refuse. People don't realize why they're not allowed to interact with her, and service dogs in general. And for me, it's because she's paying attention. She's keeping me safe. If she starts to see someone else and get excited by them, then she's not watching me.
A therapy dog has a specific job to do, and that is not the same as a service dog's job. For an emotional support dog, it's for somebody who has had an emotional trauma or is dealing with anxiety and other issues that causes such angst that they need something to help support them in their day-to-day. Service dogs perform specific tasks for that owner, and that can be very different depending on the need. For somebody who is a POTS patient, dealing with many different muscular problems, it can be just the support of having a hook and a harness here to lean on them. Chai and Espresso are therapy dogs and therapy dog in the making. They're purebred Cane Corsos. They are mother and daughter. So Chai is the mama and Espresso is her 2-year-old daughter. Chai was the project, I guess is the best word to say. We had never had a therapy dog before her. We had never had a dog that wasn't a rescue. So there was a little bit of a learning curve as we worked to make it happen. Chai and Espresso's job is to literally be a joy and fun to everybody they encounter. Both the dogs respond to sign language, so they sit, they stay, they lay upon sign language commands. So even my students who are deaf and hard of hearing can boss them around. In the beginning, it would be like saying the word sit and pairing it with the sign for sit. And then when they responded appropriately, they got little treats that were like the size of mini M&Ms. And they learned that, oh, when I do this, I get rewarded positively. When you're an incoming freshman and it's your first time away from home, your family and your friends, you don't have the connections and you can be a little homesick and a little lonely while you're acclimating here. One of the things that happened recently is a friend of one of my children tried to commit suicide twice this semester. Things were that tough for her. And I think my daughter knew she was struggling, but had no idea to the extent of what she was going through. In fact, that happened twice this semester. Really just tugged on both of our hearts to quickly finish up Espresso's training and do everything we can to provide students more support, both on Drexel's campus and at the campuses of my younger children. Hospitals are doing it, colleges are doing it. Why? Because they're finding incredible success. The few downfalls are completely outweighed by the responses and outcomes that they're seeing.
Any dog and police work, they help out a lot. If you're familiar with the olfactory system is the dog's nose. They have one of the best noses in the business as far as, that's why we buy these dogs. The bad guy goes in and hides, he throws off these skin rasps, which is the scent source. Well, it helps, you can send the dog in and do a building search, he locates these scent sources fairly quickly. That's narcotics, this is bombs, this is bad guy. Everything is a source. So their olfactory system, we train, and we prepare, and that's how they're useful in law enforcement. My job is to set up the scenario for the day. If it's building searches, tracking, narcotics detection, or a variety of different things. How it helps, I see a lot of dogs. I've seen a lot of dogs for the last 20 years. There's something I have is called the toolbox. My toolbox consists of all the dogs I've seen. What works for them, what doesn't work for them. Every dog learns differently. It helps me to see all the different dogs and their proficiencies and what they lack in. And I can go back to that toolbox and say, hey, this worked for this dog, 3 years ago, let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's bulk something out of the toolbox. Training's supposed to be fun, both for the handlers and dogs. We do stress inoculation, meaning we try to put the dog through every possible scenario he's gonna encounter on the street. We shoot with him, we throw him through windows. We do a lot of stuff with them. We carry them. We'll be doing a shoot scenario in a shoot house, and we'll be firing. We'll send them down the hallway a little bit, and I'll bring him back, and he's running back, and he's looking for me. Everybody looks the same, so he'll be next to the guy in front of me, and walking with him, and I think it's pretty funny. The guy's like, "Get your dog." Dogs learn by pictures, so if you don't present something to the dog, as in training. He's either going to do one or two things. He's going to troubleshoot and try to figure out how to do it, or he's going to turn around to the handler and say, hey, can you help me out, Dad? So you have to present every single possible scenario to the dog. And it's impossible because you're on the street doing this, and you're always coming back with more information from the guys. Hey, my dog wouldn't do this. All right, let's work on it. Let's do it, So we have 2 days a month we train. SWAT, we train once a month. So in between doing operational stuff, doing the building entry teams and the different things like that, the flashbang, the chemical agents, we'll work Nick in there a few here and there. He needs to tolerate, working in tight quarters, staying in tight quarters, being quiet. We wear masks. He needs to, know the sound of my voice. He needs to be comfortable around other guys that are slinging, weapons and different noises and shouting out orders and stuff like that. We get them when they're probably about 2 to 3 years old. The puppies that we get and they breed, they're desensitized most of the time. Nick's French right now, so I have to speak a little bit of French to, work him, but as the more you work them, the more they understand the English. They understand different stuff. People say, so the bad guys can't talk to them. Well, really, the bad guys really not going to listen to them. They don't have that bond that the handler does. If anybody out there says they have a perfect dog, you don't. They have their bad days just like people. People think that their dogs are robots. They're not. Any day that I can send Nick in and he can search a building, if I can find a bad guy without sending an officer in there to get hurt, that's a great day for me. He's a phenomenal dog. You don't get many like him. As far as narcotics, he's been no false response. He's 100%. That right there is a reward, any accomplishment that I'd be proud of, and he's done it. We found people. We found the mother load of narcotics in vehicles. They were doing articles on SWAT, so they sent a few pictures in, and I was lucky enough to make the magazine cover. It was pretty cool. Happened to be lucky to make it, and it's pretty cool. I thought, bragging rights, I guess, if you would call it. Yeah, pretty neat. He is part of my, we would say, tool belt, So, sad thing to say, he's not a tool. He is a tool for the department. He's got a great switch, on-off switch. People say, how does he fare with your family? This is where they're coming home. This is their family now. So they accept how many kids you have. They accept if you have a girlfriend or a wife. You can't really associate everybody with your dog because you break him down. He thinks everybody's friendly. You got to keep that edge on him as a police dog. It's my job to tell you to stay back. You know, is it your fault that you would come up and say, "Hey, buddy," and me not catch it? I'm supposed to be on my toes, you know, all the time. The reality is they are dogs and accidents happen. As far as the liability side, whatever happens to that dog, I am liable for. You never approach a dog without asking. People say, "Hey, it's a dog, what if he gets killed?" You know what, if he gets killed, am I gonna be heartbroken? Absolutely, absolutely. But you know what, that's what we train for. That's what they're for. You know, people say, "Oh, they're just like your family member." Absolutely, they are. But you know what? In the end, you can't replace a human life. You can replace a dog, even though all that time and money went into training that dog. If it saves a human life, absolutely.
How has working with dogs impacted your relationship with them?
Working a dog is just an amazing thing. If you're not a dog person, you know, you won't understand, but it's just, you know, knowing that he's your partner.
It's humbling. You know, you think training can fix anything, and it can do a lot. It can do a lot, but you can only work with the dog in front of you.
For me, taking the dogs out when they're in training, people want to talk to you, they want to learn, they want to know, what does your service dog do, or what organization is your dog from? And to me, that's extremely exciting to talk about.
I wouldn't have gotten into a graduate program, so I'd just be working, passing out most of the time.
It's our chance to give back, and we can't imagine life without either of them, as chaotic and hectic as it sometimes can be.